Hello, Carlos. Wow, long time no
Hello,
see. How's it
Sibo.
going? Thank you for this
I'm good. How are you?
thank you for joining us in this very organic
Hey,
way.
it's a pleasure. My pleasure.
Okay, first order of business. Someone redeemed channel points to hydrate. So is it just both of
Yes,
us or one of us?
I'll do
Okay,
it
good.
too. I mean, I've been hydrating anyway, but if it's something hard, I'll leave it to you.
Good. Okay. Problem is, however, if we get too many of those, I like we'll have to go pee in shifts, so I hope that's
Yeah,
not too much of an
yeah. Let's
issue,
let's not do it at the same time.
right? Man, so many things I wanted to talk to you about.
Go.
I have like a list of questions. I don't want to go from my list of questions. I want the conversation to flow organically, but like then
Okay.
I'm afraid I'll forget too many things if we just keep going like this. Um,
Whatever feels right to you. I have all the time in the world for you,
so
man.
you just got off a stream. You were just twitching. What have you been doing?
Yeah. I've been playing some Yu-Gi-Oh! Forbidden Memories, the PS1 game,
Okay, and is
because it was a game that I never got to beat as a kid. So it was like, oh, maybe I can just play it on PS on Twitch.
and is that how you would describe your current relationship with Yu-Gi-Oh? Forbidden Memories.
Uh, no. It's always love.
Wow, forever. So you
A
never
deep
stopped.
love.
Were you a big card
Yeah.
guy, card collector guy?
No, because I never really had money, so I could never really. I had like one deck, and then like I got to buy a few fake cards, and that was it. But I never had really the money to go and buy packs and build a proper deck and try to play.
So I,
So I loved it. I watched the anime when they played in Spain, but I never really had the money to go and play.
I would.
Akid, for example, was a big Yu-Gi-Oh guy, and he was like ninth of Spain or something when he was a
Wow.
child.
So
Yeah.
have you like figured out like in the wrestling sub community of Yu-Gi-Oh card players? Because I know I've definitely spoken to a bunch of pro wrestlers that were like competitive Yu-Gi-Oh players.
I've read of some, but I never really got into it all because again, like even if I loved it so much, never got to play competitive. Or basically, I just played amateur with some friends, but that was it. So I feel like if I talked with any of those guys, like I talked with Rufio and we played some like of the Dual Links, the app game.
Yeah.
But and I know Kit Lycos was like big into Yu-Gi-Oh. I
Yes.
think Carl Fletcher was big into Yu-Gi-Oh. So we all talked about it a little bit, but I never had the knowledge to go into a full deep conversation of like competitive Yu-Gi-Oh.
Right. So
By the way, someone is talking about the shopping basket on the Shadow and Grab stream, and I need to answer that.
yes.
Okay,
Okay. Please.
they did a Shadow and Grab stream in my living room,
Yes.
and I came back from the gym and from Asta, and I came back with a basket from Asta.
Okay. A basket.
The thing is, a basket, like the plastic one.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
The thing is, they had run out of bags
Right.
in the whole supermarket.
Okay.
Like they didn't have any Asta bags, any rubbish bags, any rubbish bags for sale. They were completely out. And I usually bring my bags to shopping, but that one day I went to the gym and I didn't think I was gonna go shopping, and then I went shopping and then I did way more shopping than I expected.
Right.
So then I had no other way to take it home than take the basket. And I saw like two or three people before me taking the baskets home, and the security guards letting them take it home because they were like completely overwhelmed by the
Right.
situation.
Right.
So I just did that and took it home.
Okay. And what happened to the
And
basket?
then I just arrived at the Shadow and Grab stream with my Asta basket, and everybody was like, "What the?"
Right? Which is the natural reaction.
Yeah,
So what happened to the basket? Did you bring it back to the Asda the following day, or did you bring it with you to Spain?
I used it for like a month or two as like my laundry basket,
Okay, very good.
and then I took it back. I think, or maybe it was still at home. I think I took it back. I think I took it back on like one of my last days. Like, hey, I took this. Here you go.
Right? So that Asda I am very familiar with as well from the time that I have spent in
Hmm.
one of the Wolverhampton houses.
Yes,
How long were you staying in like how long did you stay in England altogether?
spent a year and a half
Full,
living there.
fully living
Obviously, I've
there.
working, but full living there a year and a half.
And of course before that you had been coming in and out just for
Yeah,
odd bookings.
basically every weekend. Yeah,
So you are someone said you were 25, is that correct?
that is
So
correct. Yeah.
just ridiculously freaking young to be as good as you are. So
Nah.
I
But
remember
thank you.
I remember when I was 19 and people were telling me you're so young, and I was like, nah, I'm 19, I'm old. And then same thing when I was 25, and then same thing when I'm 30, and people still tell me, oh, you're still good, you're only 30, and it's like, nah, I'm
Yeah, good.
been feeling
Yeah.
old.
No, dude, like I see people being like 20 and 22 and being like insanely good, and it's like wow. Because I started wrestling when I was like 19,
Okay.
and by that time, like people in the UK 19 have been wrestling for like 6 years,
Yes,
and
those
here like,
cursed Joe Nelson types,
dude, wild. And they have like rings at their homes,
right?
and here like I train on like shitty mats, and for like the first 2 years we trained once a week, uh, and we trained each other, and none of us were pros.
Yeah,
So like, and then if you were lucky you wrestled once a month, and then you had like a 3 month break in the summer. So the first 2 or 3 years of my career I just spent training once a week and wrestling once a month. Like in my first 3 years, like a trainee in the UK will do more matches in their first year as a rookie than I did in my first 3 years.
right. Because they have the holiday camps and all that
Yeah,
stuff, and they can do the matches.
even without that, like just with regular shows, they have shows every single weekend. We have shows like every month. Even if you manage to get 2 bookings a month, you would get more matches than we did in a full year.
Someone says Batista started at like 40 and eventually transitioned to being a movie star. I tell myself this until I turn 40, then all hope is gone. Do you
Now you'll be the first case with
do
45.
you think you'll be a movie star, Carlos?
I think I'm already a movie star. They just don't know yet.
Ooh. Have you thought about acting? You
Uh,
have a face for
I've
it.
thought about it. I've done some acting, and I didn't
Really?
feel like I was very good at it. Yeah, I played a bad guy in like a short movie, and I've done little bits, but I didn't feel like I was very good at it.
Right?
I think though that if I work on it and I exploit it, I could be good. I just feel sometimes kind of weird in front of a camera. I feel like supernatural on stage when I'm like playing music and talking to crowds when
Or
I'm with
wrestling, yeah.
music, but sometimes with the camera and just like cutting promos or like being like this conversation, even if it's being filmed, I'm like super chill.
Yeah.
But then when like I know it's recorded, sometimes it just feels forced to me.
Right?
I think if I do it, if I get past the click or of it's forced to it's natural, I could be very good.
So we're just skipping
Me
over
being humble.
so many perfect tangents for a million things that I wanted to talk about.
Yes, I know.
Um, but so like you mentioned music before you felt at ease on the stage playing music. I'm sure you did it like a bunch of times. Like the first ever time you went on stage and played a show, you were not at ease yet. Is that correct?
um, Kinda. I guess the first times I played was like when I was like a little child
Right. Okay.
in the south of Spain. So like music school, everybody plays one song with 7 other guys. So I wouldn't count that.
Right.
But the first time I played like in a band, like my band playing a gig,
Yep.
I wasn't really scared.
Right. Was that the
Um,
same for wrestling then? Were you nervous in your first few
yeah,
matches?
no, I wasn't. I wasn't at all. Like not really for music. Maybe a bit more from music. But when I first wrestled, everybody was like frightened. Oh, sorry. Everybody was like frightened and like worried and stuff. And I was like, yeah. I mean, I knew what I had to do. It was like a very easy match to do,
Right.
and I wasn't scared at all of like because in Spain you'd get to debut in front of like 600 people back in the day.
Okay. Wow.
That was like the rabid crowd we had. So some people got scared from it, but I was like just reeling from it, like feedbacking from it. I was like loving it, so it was good for me. I didn't feel bad. I didn't feel any nervous or anything at all.
So like I think Spain is like Canada in a lot of ways. So the situation for professional wrestling normally not right now where it's simply there's none
Mhm.
and you can't do nothing. You can't go outside past
Yeah.
8 o'clock. But normally, like, and how it works and what happens has been talked a lot about on Twitter. I want to say lately, but it's mostly last week's. But just like
Mhm.
how difficult it is to be a wrestler in Canada because of
Mhm.
Canada's relationship to the U.S. and things
Yes.
like the normal place to progress to after being a successful wrestler in Canada would be to go to the United States and taking bookings, but obviously there's a lot of problems associated with that.
You know about
I
that?
do know about that, yeah. But
Yeah.
so do so many other Canadians people that
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
didn't have the
ELP and so many others
yeah,
that are great wrestlers and that should have been in the places they are way before they've gotten there, and they just had the trouble and the big like obstacle of like the border in the US and the travel
Right.
that implies.
So like regardless, Canada's very difficult. Cities are very, it's very big. Oh, we're getting a raid from
Oh,
Rosemary.
nice.
Hello. And the Swedish Ace. Thank you guys for
Hell
being with
yeah.
us. Much appreciated.
Hello,
We're
everyone.
here with Carlos Romo, just chatting.
That's
If
me.
you have any questions for him, please let us know. Uh,
Woo.
give us a shout, and we'll be more than happy to answer them. Hey, Jolly Hiveling.
That's what he says. I might not be happy to answer, but I'll still do it. I'm just
Okay.
kidding.
If you
You
have
know,
any
I'm always
questions,
happy to
please
talk.
ask, and we'll answer begrudgingly. But yeah, so Canada is very big and it's very hard. And I remember
Hey, Beta.
now it's not so bad, but when I started,
Mm-hmm.
like it was very difficult and it was easy. It was the opposite from Spain as what you're describing, where it was easy to get a lot of bookings. I was able to wrestle once or twice every single week. However, it was on
Okay.
never more than 30 people,
Mm-hmm.
right? But since then it's changed and now it's like it's I feel like it's
Mm-hmm.
normalized a lot more. Um,
Yeah.
so what kind of growth have you seen from the scene in Spain? And I assume when you say wrestle in front of giant crowds, there was one promotion that kind of ran and had
Yeah.
everything, and they just decided to.
Basically. So, Spain is in a weird point right now, but I feel like it's a nice transition. So when I started wrestling, Madrid, White Wolf ran in Madrid, and it was free shows.
Yeah,
Saturdays, 6 p.m., beer €1. So, and it was like in a pretty centric place in
yeah,
Madrid. So people like, like 80% of the crowd or maybe 90% of the crowd weren't really like wrestling fans.
right,
They just were like White Wolf fans and some casuals that just walked along. Oh yeah, the Saturday we'll just go and get shit faced at the wrestling instead of at the bar. It's cheaper, and we see wrestling. We get drunk, we shout at some dudes, and then we go and party.
right.
Then step by step, like it was to the point where if you did technical wrestling for more than a minute without including a flip, they would boo you probably.
Right.
Like that was the point. And then the more like we started learning and getting better at wrestling, and then we brought Ricochet, and then obviously Ricochet brought some eyes from the wrestling
Yeah.
fans. Then like it started switching a little bit, and then the matches were started to get, and we tried to like educate. We've talked about this.
Yeah.
We tried to educate the crowd through our matches, so they understood wrestling, and they weren't there just for like the show and everything, but they could appreciate wrestling.
So thank you, Sean
So
Nova.
then
By
you
the
could.
way, I do miss being in the States. Um, from what I've noticed, like I've wrestled in many places, including like Japan and
Mhm,
Mexico, and like
mhm.
the way I see it, everywhere in wrestling exists somewhere on the spectrum in between Japan and Mexico, right? Where in Japan they're
Okay.
just paying attention, they're focused.
Yeah.
You can tell complex stories and they'll pay attention. They will
Uh huh.
follow storylines. Like the
Yeah.
same 50 people or so come to every single DDT show and they're paying
Hmm.
attention. They
Ah,
know what's
cool.
up. And in Mexico, hey, Lucha's in town. Let's go and get drunk, and no one watches and no one cares. And then when
Yeah.
there's a dive, they put their beat down and go, hey, he did a double shooting star of the top rope. Very nice. And that sounds like, but that sounds a lot like the way you're describing Spain was, right?
Yeah, that's how it was. And then they started learning, and it got to like an in between. And then you could see like the crowd transitioning from just casuals and regulars, which I don't disrespect at all, and I really appreciate. It's just a different kind of crowd.
Yes,
To then more like wrestling fans, people
yes.
that would leave that and would watch wrestling at their in their homes. Like it's not just Saturday once a month when they watch
But
wrestling.
I think I think that's the best people to have at your show, right? And it's something
Yeah,
I
exactly. That's
always say, like when you're wrestling, you should never wrestle for the people that already like you because they already do. What's the point? You should try to wrestle for the people that aren't decided yet. Thank you for
hmm
the follow, Enrique Cito 127.
Hey, Enrique, he's a
Enrique,
cool dude. Yeah, I think you've met him. He used to train at Fight Club. He's a big guy, tall, big, with a beard, glasses. He's been there many times. Which you've definitely met him. I'll show you a picture afterwards.
please. Regardless, thank you for
Yes,
being with
yes, you met.
us.
Yeah, he's a
Um,
cool guy.
what was I
And
saying
that
then?
you should wrestle for the people that aren't
Right.
decided yet,
Yes.
not for the ones that are ready like you.
Yeah. that's who you should want to wrestle for, right? So always assume that no one knows you and try to win them over. And I think all the
Mhm.
best wrestling promotions and the best wrestling
Mhm.
territories sort of happened like that.
Mhm.
Like there's C4
Mhm.
wrestling up in Canada.
Yeah.
It's been around for a long time.
Mhm.
You watch their first like I don't know 20 shows or so, and there's no more than
Mhm.
20 people in the crowd. And then they have guys like
Mhm.
they had like the Super Smash Brothers, uh,
Yeah.
El Generico, Kevin Steen wrestling on every single show, having great
Yeah.
matches, and then from having 20 people, you got like an extra 5 every show that just show up because hey, wrestling, let's go and get drunk. It might be fun, but then the show actually is really good and draws you in,
Yes.
and then you come back and like.
Yes.
I feel like the UK maybe 10 years ago or so, like you had like
Uh,
the holiday circuit and all that, and you had the big
yeah.
promotions with a lot of budget, but all the little promotions sort of started and built themselves like that. And I think
Mhm.
that's the best way to do it, which is what got you to the scene you have now in Spain.
Yeah, but also in Spain, you had like a double edge that was dangerous because obviously you want to keep that crowd and you want to make them interested in the product and like wanting them to come back.
Right.
But in Spain, it was also and it's still real hard to get the wrestling fans to like the Spanish wrestling promotions
Okay.
because they were all like really skeptic and they had like this feeling of like wanting to criticize the product because let's be honest, wrestling in Spain wasn't very good 5 years ago. Still not great. There's some gems. There's some real good wrestlers. There's some undiscovered wrestlers, and there's some guys that are just okay. And sometimes things are shit, and that's fine, and we have to accept it. But the Spanish wrestling fan was always like really skeptic and hard to. It was like you really had to give them something good for them to want to support.
Right.
So it wasn't like you had the wrestling fan already won over.
Yes.
You also had to win over the wrestling fan.
Right.
So it was like, in a way, it was a funny way and like interesting challenge for you. But also, it's a double-edged sword that you really had to. Okay, I want to keep these people that don't know wrestling happy and make them enjoy the show and make them want to come back.
Right.
And these people that already know wrestling, they need to enjoy the wrestling they like and find what they like and find something they won't be able to shit on. Because if they see one bad match, the moment they get in, they'll be like, Spanish wrestling is shit, and they won't come back ever again.
And then you have to juggle the different kind of wrestling that people want to show the audience, right? Like this was
Mm-hmm.
a thing in Quebec that very much hold on, I gotta allow this message. That was happening all the time. Every time you wrestle in front of a crowd that was like, let's say there's a festival or something, there's always this
Mm-hmm.
kind of battle between the wrestlers of the mentality of, oh, they don't know wrestling, so let's just, give a dumb old school gaga, let's make them have
Mm-hmm.
fun and wrestle around for the kids. But then there's also the
One, two.
yes, and then there's let's put on objectively good pro wrestling and
Mm-hmm.
let them learn that that is what it is and how to react to that,
Mm-hmm.
which they don't know.
Okay.
And like, there's always a battle between that. Was that the same thing? I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
the big promotion you mentioned working for in Spain had a lot of its old school dudes, right?
Yeah. The thing is, in Spain, there was a mix between that, but also not many people. Oh, I saw a young gorilla. Hello, pew pew. But also, not many people were capable of doing, and still are not, of doing the good pro wrestling the pro wrestling fan wants to.
Right.
So, and to be honest, like n- no one, because in Spain, it's a hobby for
Yeah.
everyone. So no one is really a worker.
Right.
A worker can do Gaga and do it very well,
Yes.
and a worker can do pro wrestling and can do it very well,
Yes.
hopefully.
Right.
But there's an art to both sides.
Yes.
People here just try to do their best with what they had.
Right.
But I guess it was probably easier to give them Gaga because it has a certain element that is not about the technique
It's
of pro
yeah.
wrestling
It's easy to
than pro
yeah.
wrestling.
You just have to sort of make the
But
choice to do that, and then it's easier to get people on board with that.
yeah, but it was hard to make this choice, and I don't feel like many people could actually make a choice. They would just do what they could.
Right.
The choice they would have to make wouldn't be in front of the crowd, but would be behind the
Yeah.
scenes in a way of, do I want to train and learn as much as I can to be able to give them both?
Yeah.
Or do I just want to settle with giving them Gaga and the things they have enjoyed for some time
Yeah.
and not try to progress to be able to give them these good pro wrestling matches too.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like it's more of a decision backstage and at training and at home
Yes.
than they had to do at the shows when they were like performing.
Yeah. By the way, if you guys have any questions, please chime in. We'd love to hear them. For me or Carlos, or about wrestling in general. I mean, so
Mhm.
I think we both very much qualify as wrestling nerds,
Yes,
like, right?
I think you qualify more as a wrestling nerd than I am.
Really?
I just qualify as nerd overall.
No, I'm pretty nerdy about many things. I mean, like, I've always been sort of a sports guy, but also just how, like, I don't know. I think being a nerd is more about interest than
Mhm.
anything
That's
else.
very true.
But like,
Yeah.
um, I'm sure. So right now, being in lockdown and
Mhm.
everything, how much wrestling have you been watching?
Um, I'll be honest. I've watched more than I've done than I watched like the last year, maybe in the last few
Same
months,
here.
and I still haven't watched much.
Yeah.
But for example, I've gotten to hang out with a friend lately that's a big wrestling fan, but hasn't trained any wrestling. So I just went to his place and we watched Royal Rumble, and then we watched NXT the other day. The other day, to be honest, the other day for the NXT takeover, I was like real hyped. Like a lot of the matches really interested me as a both as a wrestler and as a pro wrestling
Yeah.
fan. Like, okay, this is gonna be sick. But those 2 nights I had a blast because I was just watching with a friend, trying to enjoy myself and not thinking about, oh, I'm watching wrestling. I want to learn. I need to analyze. I need to take this and this and this, which you obviously do in some way,
Yes.
but still I tried to watch as a fan and really enjoyed it. The other day when I went into your chat, I was like, oh damn, I went enough right after that I went and watched you and Bandito from Karat. And then I was like, oh damn, I miss wrestling, and I watched some of like my old matches from Repro, and I watched our match.
Nice.
Uh, and so I just pick and choose. I've watched some AEW. I've watched some New Japan. I went and watched Wrestle Kingdom with my friend, but it's not that I do like my daily dose of wrestling or something like that.
Right.
I'm pacing myself in a way that I watch wrestling and I can learn from it and I can enjoy it, so I don't get burnt out. And this is a weird time, which I don't think we're gonna have in our lives again, where we're like forced away from wrestling so we can clear our heads. So I'm still in touch, and the thing is, I'm training every day, so it's not that I'm disconnected from wrestling. But when I get home, I try to make doses and give myself like little bits.
Right.
So I watch it when I want to, and when I want to, I'll watch like 2 hours in a row,
Yeah.
but not force myself to watch
I
because I
find
have
there's
to.
really like two modes I have when I watch wrestling. Like I can just sit back and enjoy it, or I
Hmm.
can break down the structure and take pause and film and like rewind
And
and
write
look at the
down
move,
and
and
yeah,
they're completely
yeah,
different. And like I
absolutely,
cannot do like one and a little bit of the other. No, it's one or the other, because I'm gonna just, if I get away from just watching and enjoying, then I'm gonna fully nerd out.
yeah.
And so Gerard ESG wants to know, who would you say are the 3-5 best European wrestlers right now, or just 3-5? Okay,
Wow.
but what I want to know,
Mm.
let's do Europe, and then I want to do Spain.
Okay, I think I'm probably better at Spain than Europe because, to be honest, Europe I'm gonna forget
So
so
I
many
think
people.
Europe is difficult.
And if Europe includes the UK, then that's like okay.
Yeah,
Do we include the UK?
UK, Ireland, Scotland, Germany. I mean, we should include it, but yeah, that would be very very difficult. Who stands out in Europe altogether? Do you have a couple names?
Do we talk? Okay,
UK, sorry,
again,
Europe,
no,
entire
no. But
Europe.
do we talk? Do we talk indies? Do we talk any company?
Let's say,
I'll let you decide that.
let's go unsigned. Yeah,
Unsigned. Okay. Uh, dude, I'm trying to think. I'm just trying to think like the cards that I've seen or that I've been in or that I think in the shows. God damn it. I'm
I,
so disconnected
by the
right
way, I
now.
love a good thinking face and thinking noises.
That was a good
Yeah,
one.
yeah,
Was
yeah,
it a
yeah.
good
No,
one?
no, very good. Just
Uh,
fingers on the brain, just real connected. Very happy with that.
um, okay. We probably count Chris Brooks as signed, right?
well, we count him as Japan now because he's been with DDT for a
Yeah,
long time.
yeah.
But yeah,
We okay. Because I'd count him at least as a mind.
yeah.
Um, I'm trying to think the rep pro shows we've
Well,
done.
if you're gonna ask me like top three in
Yeah,
your
you probably give me a good clue.
yeah, Ridgeway definitely,
Okay.
Gene
Uh
Money,
huh. Yeah.
Carnoir,
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
right? Now, I feel like I'm neglecting
Yeah.
Germany right now, but still, those are the names that come to mind in
I mean,
terms of
if we're going UK, Cara Noir is definitely up there, like
absolutely.
100%,
Yep.
100%, million percent. Um, I feel like No Fun Done is a very underrated wrestler.
Yeah.
I feel like Damien Dunn
Yes.
or No Fun Done is really good and really
I
underrated.
completely agree.
There's, I mean, Kid Lycos when he's healthy, he's great.
I completely agree, and I'm glad to see he's back or returning
Yeah, he's
soon.
back,
Very excited to
and
see that.
I hope he stays healthy for a long
What
time.
about back home in Spain? Who are the top guys you see coming up? Because off the top of my head, I can't think of very many Spanish wrestlers that are currently traveling or going around. I met a
No,
few
because
at the WXW showcase at 16 Carat
yeah,
that did
yep.
very well, but
By the way, they all loved you. They were like, "Oh, Speedball was so nice to us. He took care of us so much. He made us feel at home. He was great. Like they love
I
you.
watched
They
their
legit
match,
love you."
and even though it wasn't perfect, you could tell how much they cared and they wanted to
Oh
put on a
yeah,
good show. And this was their moment, and they
hmm
really gave it their best. And
yeah,
like I wanted to help them out and give my opinion.
that's
As
great.
like that's what I want to do with pro wrestling. But yeah,
Yeah, I know you do, and I appreciate it, and I know they did too. In Spain, I feel like the next big guy, and I feel like he could be even better than Akid, and I've said it
wow.
before. Is Tozaya.
Okay,
Tozaya is a guy. He came to try and train at White Wolf when he was like 14 or 15, and
nice.
we couldn't train people at that age. So he came and asked me, "What can I do before I wrestle?" And I went, "Do amateur wrestling. Whenever
Yes.
you're allowed to wrestle, you'll be so much better than anyone else." He started training amateur, and now he's like champion of Spain, like second of Europe, and stuff like that. Like he's every single weekend in different competitions and winning medal in all of them. He went and trained in Ireland because he was allowed to before he was
Okay. Great.
18 here. He's like 18 or 19 now. He has like a crazy amateur background. He's getting jacked. He's big, and you know those people that have like the wrestling expressions and facials that just come within themselves.
Yes. Well, so if he
Like,
wanted to train ever since he was 14, then that means he's been
yeah,
absorbing pro wrestling ever since, and that definitely
yeah,
stays with you.
that's true. But like, I was watching wrestling since I was a little kid too, and even if I have some of those mannerisms, he's one of those people that's just like so rated, but like it looks like natural to him.
Yes.
Um, and then technically wise, he's like sound, and then his strikes look vicious, and then he'll do the noise, and then he'll have like all the stamina in the world, and he wants to study and learn from everyone all the time, like that guy. And he's like 18 or 19
Love
now.
it.
In 2 3 years, like the moment he starts resting outside of Spain, people are gonna be like, "Holy shit, this guy!"
Can someone drop his Twitter handle in the chat? Is he on Twitter?
I I don't think he has a Twitter handle, and I think it's on purpose
Okay.
because
Right.
he doesn't want the amateur wrestling people to find out he's doing pro wrestling or something like
That
that.
makes sense. Yes. Okay. I see.
But I'll try to find a match of his and link it and send it to you or something
That
because
would be
he's great.
fantastic. I'll share it on the
Yeah,
Discord when I do.
sure.
So Shaunova wants to know, where do we see yourself in the current landscape, big promotion wise? So that's a question that I've answered I've answered 10 times over the past few weeks, and I
Okay.
always I think it's super hard,
hmm
and I always sort of try to go around it because I think there's no good answer. You know, like
Yeah.
in the so this is like the exercise that I want everyone like to do, right? So
Okay.
Carlos Romo,
That's me.
there's promotion A, B, and C, right?
Uh huh. You pointed 5 fingers, so that's G and E too.
No, the thumb is not a finger,
Okay.
right?
Just
Actually,
kidding.
I lost where I was going with this analogy, or
Fuck. I'm
rather,
sorry.
I'm thinking how I can do them on air, right?
Okay.
Um, ah, see, I'm trying to think of a way I can make this analogy on air without forcing you to reveal too much. Okay, I'm just gonna say it like this then.
You're counting on me to understand your analogy.
I am. It's a rough one though. So
Okay.
regardless, there's all those promotions, right?
Mhm.
Is there one that you would turn down? Is there one that you would go, no, I do not want to work for them?
To be honest, that's like I've given myself like I've had that conversation with myself,
Right.
and I've said it a couple times that I've never like tweeted it out or something. Maybe like mentioned it on a podcast.
Yeah.
I did turn out one tryout for WWE,
Yeah.
which I think we spoke about because it was like on the way back from one of the Ref Pro shows when I decided not to do it.
That's right.
But I turned down that tryout for two reasons. One, I had done a tryout and trained with them like 3 months before, so I
Right.
thought if they were interested in me, they would have already signed me or offered me something, not a tryout.
Yes.
Two, I felt that I was at a stage where I needed to get more experience in independent wrestling and grow a bigger name. Because if I wanted to go there, I didn't want to be at the bottom of the pile.
That makes
I
perfect
want to be a
sense.
guy with experience and with like a name, and with them knowing that I'm able to put on very good matches in against very different opponents and in different lengths, and put on great main events and great 8 minute matches, and being like a world respected guy.
Yeah.
So I felt like I rejected that very politely, and I said, I'm interested to keep talking in the future if you're still interested, but I feel I need to grow to make a name for myself before this.
Right. Okay. Which goes like perfectly into
Which is
my line of
the only
thinking.
okay.
Because like every promotion has something to offer. Something
That's
different.
very true.
Right?
Exactly.
And if they want you, then they're gonna offer you something, and that's a lot more important than the promotion itself. Like I
hmm
don't know a single pro wrestler that would say, I do not want to wrestle for New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Yeah.
I'm not interested, no matter what. I would like citing philosophical differences or whatever. Like it always depends on what do they want from me and what do they have to offer versus what does
Exactly.
someone else. So like in terms of where do I see myself, where do I think is ideal for me? Like I've looked and I know there's people that I am dying to work with in every single
In
major
every
promotion
company,
right
yeah,
now.
exactly. Yeah, obviously. And there's things from every company that you love, and like you can find it like in many companies, and like you can like for example like the rounds in this, the pure championship in this,
Yes.
the big promotion and the like the opportunity to work with legends for young guys in this
Yes.
one, the big opportunities for all the young talent, and they have championship matches and big showcase
Yes.
in this other one. Like there's opportunities like and like or the different culture and the legends and the people like the work backstage and the way they behave and the way they treat wrestling in this other one. There's obviously pros in every single company. I feel like it depends on what it feels good for you as a person, what it feels into your life in that moment, what do they offer you,
Right.
if you think it's fair or if you think it's good, or even if you don't think it's fair. Sometimes it's not like that. If you need it,
Yes.
because that could be a case too.
Yes.
Um, and
However,
then obviously, if you have multiple choices, you'll choose whatever fits you the best.
so I absolutely cannot. But can you narrow it down to one? Can you go out of all the promotions? There's one I would rather work for. I have tried and I cannot.
Dude, I can't. I think I can't.
Now,
I
what
cannot.
if one of
Okay.
them offers you to wrestle in a cold, wet, and dangerous cave?
I've read the chat. Then I think there's only one promotion that would do that.
Almost spat my tea out. We have had in the chat and on this stream and with Beta many cave discussions about
Oh
what a
really?
terrible experience that was all
Oh my god.
around. It
Okay,
was
let me tell you
scary.
something about that show.
Yes, please. So I want to hear. Like, I'm sure I've said my point of view many times, and I was already the promoter had already shorted me maybe a few £100 before the show even began. It
Okay,
was
wow.
very clearly poorly organized.
Yeah.
And Veda felt as we were standing inside the cave called the
Uh-huh.
Devil's Devil's ass.
Devil's Arse, yeah, that's
Yeah.
correct.
We were standing right in the devil's ass, and Veda was like, this show is not happening. It's not gonna happen." But somehow it
It
did.
happened.
Devil's
Yeah,
anus. Devil's
it was,
anus. Jesus Christ, that's
it
even
was Devil's
worse.
Arse. She's just trolling. I'm reading beta on the chat, and it's funny. I
So
mean, it was
I
traumatic.
want to know
So,
from your point of view.
let's
What?
go.
Oh, by the way, Veda, can you please post the video that you have of us shooting hard? By the way, because this is a shoot interview, as we have established, as opposed to a work interview. Please, Veda, can you post the Twitter video of us? Oh, Kid Laska says
Kid lost cause hydrate.
hydrate. Please post that video. But yes, Carlos, from your
Hmm.
perspective, your point of view, how did you feel in the cave? And did you think the show was going to happen?
So before I got there, we went on our way. I think it was Damien Dunn driving the car. I don't
It
know who else
usually
was in the
is.
car. Yeah. There was like 3 or 4 of us in the car. I don't remember exactly who we were.
Yeah.
But I was getting messages from Akid because he got there first.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah, I
moment he
remember
got there, he was like, "There's no way this show's happening." Like I was like, "What? What's going on?" It was like, "Dude, like this shit looks unsafe as hell. Like it's up against a cliff, legit up against a cliff. It's freezing cold in here. The mat is starting to get wet. Uh, and then like all the many other problems. Like there's like one dressing room. It's real cold. Da da da. We don't know the time. Whatever other things. But like the main issue was like this looks dangerous. This doesn't look safe.
Juba's here, by the way. Shout out Juba. Um,
Juba. Up.
who did he stay with you guys in Wolverhampton?
No. He stayed somewhere else because he had to
Okay.
catch a flight like the
Aha.
following day. So they just like flew him in, took him to the cave, took him to the airport, and flew him out, something like that. So I was texting him, and he was like, "This looks really unsafe. Like, I don't know how we're gonna do this." And I was like, "Dude," because like it was supposed to be this big story for me in Breed, and
Yeah.
so this was like another part of like the whole angle.
Yeah.
And then I got there, and we were supposed to do this technical match,
Yes.
and he was like, "There's no way I'm staying like in the mat for more than a minute."
I remember I was wrestling Chuck Mambo on that show.
Yeah.
And like so the story of our match, basically the way we did it was we started by just wrestling a tiny bit, and then he goes to throw me into the ropes on the side that is like basically off a cliff. And I stop and I scream, "Ah!" And then he goes and they go, "Ah!" And then we agree that it's way too dangerous. So we decide we're just going to pretend to wrestle. People can take the pictures, and then we do that. And then we do a little photo hop, fake photo op. But I stop him. That leads into the heat. Then we brawl on the outside. He throws a rock in my mouth. I accidentally swallow it. He throws rocks in the ring. We bump on the rocks, and we do a bunch of falsies. And good times. But you and A-Kid and young Joe Nelson and his friend, whose name I cannot remember
Oh
at all.
God, yeah, they had a sick match.
You guys had actual, like, real full-on matches. And sorry, Enrique, I'm gonna get to your question in just a second, and Gerard as well. But yes, sorry. Please.
Oh, by the
your
way, I
take.
love the username Jackie Daytona. Big up to what we do in the shadows. If that's the reason why that's the username,
I don't know. I don't know the one. I don't know it.
then you need to watch that.
I'm not. So I enjoy music, and like
Okay,
I
that's a TV show. It's a comedy.
tangent. I'm going on one of my patented tangents where I just go way off. Like people say, I say I love food. I do love food, right?
Mhm.
So everyone eats, everyone likes food. But I went to cooking school. I take cooking seriously. I consume a lot of food related media.
Yeah.
I like music. I listen to a lot of music. I listened to a good 2 hours of music today. I am not a music nerd like you are, and like I'm guessing Jackie Daytona in the chat are.
No,
but
Jackie
it's a
Daytona is about a TV show.
Regardless, yeah.
TV show, yeah.
I like
I'm gonna-
TV. Not a TV nerd. Sorry. don't know.
Laszlo, Jackie Daytona.
Yes.
Anyway, that bit was specifically for Jackie Daytona. Going back to
Yes.
the cave, yeah, we had like a full-on match, but still, like we planned it as a normal match, not the technical wrestling match we should have had, which would have been 8-minute mat based and maybe a couple of falsies, and that was the end.
Something else about, and I will go on and tell you, I will critique your match with A-Kid on that show. in just a second, which is something I do shamelessly.
Please don't.
Um,
Please don't.
the
Please
like
don't.
that cave show.
I don't feel it was good.
Aside,
And there was like one moment in the ring where I wanted to die because I did the worst cattle mutilation of all time. The worst.
so that show, by the way, not only was it a show in a cave, and 3
Mhm.
matches would have been more than enough. It's a cave,
Mhm.
it's fun, but also it's cold, it's wet, and no one wanted to be there for longer than an hour. So my critique, my review of your match with A-Kid is 0 stars because you actually did way too much professional wrestling, and you should have gone like 30 seconds and done all the aforementioned Gaga and pop the kids, and A-Kid should have went full heel, and like you arm drag him and then he goes, "He pulled my hair," and that should have been the extent of your match. It should have been 5 minutes long and go home. That's it. Go home in an
You're
awful
very
cattle
right.
mutilation.
Yeah,
Question from
you're very
Enrique.
right. Just one last thing to add.
Yes.
I hurt both my shoulders on that match without getting hurt during the
Very
match.
good. How?
Just from how cold it
Mm-hmm.
was. I wrestled Chris Brooks the following day in Southampton, I remember.
Thank you for the follow,
And
Jordana.
both my shoulders were hurting so bad, and I didn't take any back bumps or any like pulls or anything, just from the cold.
I cut up both my
Go ahead.
knees giving Captain Sexy a tombstone backstage, and but fine for my match though. Yeah, okay. Enrique, I always say that the best wrestling seminar I have ever been is one we did in Fight Club with me, Speedball Mike Bailey.
Mhm.
So I would like to ask both of you, which is the best seminar you have ever been attending? So yeah, what's the best seminar you've ever attending? But I know you've been teaching classes at a
Mhm.
school in Spain.
Yep,
And
that's
I
correct.
want to hear your like a lot of your thoughts on teaching. My favorite seminar that
Okay.
I've ever done, like I haven't done that many, honestly. There was Kevin
Mhm.
Steen before he got signed used to do a lot of seminars in
Okay.
Quebec. I never got to attend one just because it didn't work out,
Mhm.
but my brother did, and I heard they were great. The only wrestling seminar I did from like a big person was from Eugene, Nick this, and it
Okay.
was
Wow.
like one of those that quickly turned into a Q&A, very sadly, about his
Mhm.
days as
Yeah.
playing the
Yeah.
sad and very problematic character of Eugene. And like I honestly haven't like even seen that many great seminars.
Mhm.
Which ones have you done that were good, Carlos?
Okay. I think I'm definitely gonna forget something. Then as soon as we finish the stream, I'm gonna be like, "Fuck,"
Yes.
and I'm gonna feel so bad about the person that taught that
Good.
seminar. I remember Zack Sabre Jr. in
So,
Spain being
Saucy
great.
Flossy, I'll answer your question in just 1 second. But yes,
Okay, great. Zack Sabre Jr. in Spain was great. Was
yes,
amazing. I felt it was just great.
yes.
Yours at Fight Club was great
Thank you
too.
very much.
The ones I've done with you. Especially when I remember like when you told me about like all those multi-man matches and stuff like
Yes,
that,
structures.
because that's something people don't really talk about, and that's great. The Mike Quackenbush seminars were great, to be honest. I know it's not a lot to talk about it right now, but the seminars themselves were great. Ophidian was great. Again, it's Chikara
Good.
people, so Chucky T when when he trained me too. Every coach that I've trained from Chikara, their seminars were great.
So
Um,
yeah.
it was very interesting to do the seminar with Shibata,
Okay. Yes.
because for someone like me that has never been to Japan, to do one seminar and just get a glimpse of what the Young Lions training
Right.
system
Hear
is,
that
it was
perspective.
really
Yeah.
interesting.
So
Even if it was like super basic.
the way I see it, there's like two kinds of seminars.
Hmm.
There's ones where they're gonna
Oh, Pete Dunne, by the
yes.
way, any single time, every single training session with Pete Dunne, amazing.
So like yeah, two kinds of seminars. One that basically just teaches you a bunch of moves, which are
Hmm.
very useful and
Fuck
it's
that.
great, and of course you'll learn a lot from them.
Yeah.
So my philosophy behind when I do a seminar is I like when I did taekwondo, we would have a yearly seminar with the grandmaster, right?
Hmm.
Then who would basically come, and the idea was he's gonna show us a bunch of kicks and techniques, but it's for our coach to watch
Hmm.
it, and then our coach to then drill them with us.
Pass it on. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
see it
Yeah.
so often, and I like that's why I don't do the seminars this way. where people go,
Hmm.
you learn a funny flying into an octopus stretch, and it's nice. And then one out of the 30 people in the seminar is going to do it in a match, maybe once, and then the rest are going to forget it.
Or
And
maybe seven of the 30 people, and then the whole
yeah,
show
the whole
next
show is
day
just
is full of
octopus.
flying octopus, which is what would happen in Spain. You
Yes.
would learn something, the following show, everybody would do
So,
it.
like, my philosophy, like, so there's that where you just learn moves, and then, like, it's helpful,
Mhm,
it's fun, the moves are good, it's good to be able to know moves. But I think, like, a lot of that,
mhm.
the way I see it, you should learn in your normal training. And the way I like to teach
Yes.
seminars is I want to, like, as a direct approach, I want, it's basically like a writing workshop. Yeah. I want to, usually they're before a show, and my
Mhm.
thought is, what is the number one way that I can make the show better? And
Yeah.
like, I know things will happen. Like, I know most of the seminars I've done, especially when it's the first time, I comebacks are what I focus, and I have everyone run through that because everyone does one. Every match has one, and there's a lot of, like,
Hmm.
philosophical wrestling information about, like, structure, like you
Yes.
said, that I try to pass on, right? And that also, that is
Yes.
how I teach wrestling. Um, a lot
Hmm.
of schools, and from what I've encountered, and I disagree with, the mentality
Hmm.
is very much, let's learn all the pieces first, all of them, and then
Hmm.
once we've learned all the pieces for a year or so, let's finally start putting them together, right?
Hmm.
Where what I prefer is very much like, let's figure out what the whole landscape looks like, what we're trying to achieve with professional wrestling. Let's understand how
Okay.
that works, and then let's
Hmm.
slowly put in the pieces as we learn them,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
Um, yes, it does make sense. Two things I want
Yeah,
to add. There's only one moves seminar that I've done. It wasn't a seminar. It was just us training and doing
yeah,
stuff. We just went and had the ring and was able to practice. That was good, and it was actually
yeah,
great. But I'll tell you why. And it was Ricochet and
yeah.
Page. Because he was, he's able to get stuff out of people that people don't even have the slightest idea they can do.
Yes.
So, like, in that way, he's amazing. He's the best one I've seen in that kind of seminar and aspect. Um, when it comes to teaching styles, on seminars, first of all, I like seminars that give you the tools that a professional wrestler has and a very good professional, a top wrestler has, that trainees or even the wrestlers at a
Yeah.
school won't have. If I do a seminar with a top star worldwide that has traveled all over the world and wrestles for a big major company, and he teaches me how to do an international spot, I don't need that. I can learn that from someone
So
else.
I've seen a ton
I
of
want
those seminars where it's just, okay, let's do headlocks.
just
No, your tackles are
yeah,
wrong. Okay, now let's do headlock. I
exactly.
saw a seminar that was, and it was from a legend that shall go unnamed, but they did lock up
Hmm.
headlock, then they did lock up headlock shoot tackle, then they did lock up headlock shoot tackle drop down, and then they did drop down drop to hold one submission. That was an hour and a half because there was 20 people and they
And
just alternated, and then they did a bunch of squats, and that was it.
so I don't see the point in doing a seminar like that when someone else can teach you that. I can understand if it does it like to warm up and see what the
Yes,
level where
right.
the levels at, and that's totally
But
fine.
people are paying good
But that's
money.
it.
Like,
Exactly. If I'm paying, especially in Spain, where you don't get to train with good
yes,
people, you're paying maybe 50 euros for one
yes,
seminar, and you get to do that like once in every 3 or 6
right.
months, or maybe a
Yeah.
year. So you need to get like 8 months worth of training from that guy. You need to pick his brains, and you want to learn from him what makes him so good. So that's why how I feel like the training seminars from the top wrestlers should be.
Yeah.
They should tell people the insights and what they know and what makes them understand wrestling, and try to make people understand wrestling the way they have. Because in the end, that's it. Like, technique you can practice on your own or with someone
Yes.
else, but the understanding of wrestling and being able to create and to make good pro wrestling and good pro wrestling matches and interesting things and things that stand out, that's what makes the money and makes someone popular. And that's why I want to learn what I want to learn if someone top teaches me.
And is that
When
is
it
that
comes
also how you would describe the way you teach pro wrestling?
the way I teach is somehow somewhat different, but just a little bit. So the thing is, in Spain, we had very very bad basics.
Yes.
to the point where I was like 4 years in. I would go to a training session in the UK, and they would correct me something
Mm.
basic, and that would destroy me on the inside because it'd be like I cannot be wrestling for 4 years and don't know how to not know how to do this. So I'm very strict with the basics, and I want people to focus loads on them.
Right.
And the very basics, I want them to nail them.
Right.
Nail. I hate when I see people in advanced level doing a bad tackle or a bad lockup or a bad uh, headlock, and I'm guilty of that. Everybody probably is to a degree. But because I hate it when I see it in myself, and I hate it when I see it in other wrestlers, I don't want to see it in my trainees.
Right.
Past that, I structure my training in 3 levels.
Mm-hmm.
We do basic, intermediate, and advanced. Basic is the very basics where if you don't know that, you cannot do anything else in pro wrestling.
L-
So
So
basically,
yeah.
rolls, bumps, basic holds, basic technical and
Okay.
chain wrestling, running the ropes, bit of in and out of the ring. Very basic, and the very 2 or 3 basic
Yeah.
moves. Then, when in intermediate, what I want to do is like give people tools.
Tools.
That's what I give them. What I want to teach them different submissions, different holds, different moves, different strikes. I mean, you'd learn some strikes in basic,
Yes.
obviously, but you work more on them. You work on sequences. You work on your timing. You work on like the stuff like the mobility and like more like the psychometrics. I don't know how to say it.
Yeah.
The physics of
Right.
it. Yeah, just get tools in your book so you're able to have tools when it comes to a pro wrestling match and you have to do something and you'll be like, okay, I know this or this or this. In advance, what I want to do is just focus on the stuff you'll do psychology wise, structure wise, and how would you approach a match.
Right.
In improvisation too, how to work on the fly, how to come up with stuff, maybe work on the stuff you have and make it better. Working on roles, on the roles in the match. I mean, um, I want to make people progress as fast as they
Yes.
can. And to be honest, once they're in intermediate, it usually takes them not too long to get into advanced if they're working
Right.
hard. It's just the basic to intermediate that sometimes takes a bit longer for
Okay.
me. But we've spoken about this, and I want people to be able to at least know how to do the basic structure match in 6-8 months
Yeah.
tops.
Okay.
If it can't happen, I won't do it because I value safety first. So I don't mind if someone has to stay 2 years in basic training if I don't feel putting that person with someone else, even just to do a simple international spot, is going to be dangerous.
And is that how you learned pro wrestling
So
as well?
yeah, I know I didn't learn it that way, but I wish I did.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair enough. So I think that is how people should be teaching, by the way. Like my like mission when I want to teach pro wrestling is to tell every young professional wrestler that wants to get better like exactly what I wish I would have been told early on.
Exactly. Yes. 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 That's it. That's it. You summed up a 5 or 8 minute rant into 2 sentences.
That's what I do. Gerard ESG wants to know, how do you feel as professional wrestlers the difference between styles between different promotion? What is this? What was this?
I just said hi to Charlie
Okay.
Evans. I
Ah,
just said chaps.
hell yeah.
Yeah.
Is she in the? Oh, I'm missing. Hi, Speed Flex. That's me. I'm Speed Flex. Hi, Charlie. Hi,
That's your.
Chevs. Never called you Chevs, but I will because I guess that's what we're doing. Do you have to adapt a lot to the own style of the promotion, or they're pretty flexible with each other as wrestlers? I'm meaning, for example, the kind of difference you feel between Japanese strong style and wrestling from England or Canada. So yeah, you've traveled a lot. What are your thoughts behind that? Adapting to the style, to the different styles
Okay,
between different regions and promotions.
I'm reading the question. Yeah. Um, I feel. I mean,
Legend,
obviously, you
Charlie
want to
Evans.
adapt.
Shout out. Yes, sorry.
No. Yeah. Obviously, you have to adapt, and I take it in a lot of consideration. I try to see how the crowd is, what the crowd is like, what do they want. If I work for a new company, I always try to ask the regulars at the company and see and ask them what's the crowd like, what do they like, what do they not enjoy at all.
Right.
And then obviously I try to leave some space in my matches so I can work with the crowd and see what they're like and do some improvisation to cater the match to them. But it's usually, I know you plan a lot or the whole match before, and I do most of it, but I want to do it with some knowledge of the crowd. The styles haven't varied that much, maybe a bit between the UK and the US,
Yes.
and obviously some more with Spain because it's a different crowd that doesn't know pro wrestling that much, even if they do more. Oh, sorry, hydrate.
Please.
Mm, but I haven't gotten to a point where I've wrestled in Japan and I've gotten to cater to the Japanese style, but then I've wrestled Japanese people, and then I've
Yes.
seen that wrestling in them, uh, and it was so interesting, like the way they approached building sequences and building matches, and they when they like said, "Well, maybe we should do this," and I was like, "Oh shit, this sounds like the Japanese matches I watch."
Yes.
So yeah, I can tell the difference of styles. I haven't had to change it
Yeah.
wildly, but I can definitely
Which
tell. And I hope I can get to have the experience to go to Mexico or Japan and see the complete different
so
style. And
my opinion on this is based off of my experience in Mexico.
mhm,
And seeing so many people come and make the mistake that I didn't make. And Carlos, I
mhm,
hope you never make that mistake, and I hope you never change.
I will
And
listen
like,
to you.
so when I came to Mexico, like I
Mhm,
learned some lucha, I trained a bunch, but there is no way that I
mhm.
would ever be as good as the lifelong luchas over there. And I understand that if they're bringing Speedball Mike Bailey based off the work of Speedball Mike Bailey, then they want to see some Speedball Mike Bailey bull s, and that's what they're gonna get. So like
Yeah,
I
they don't want to
yeah,
watch Bola de Velocidad Mike Bailey. They want to watch Speedball Mike Bailey.
exactly. My style always adapts to my opponent, and of course that's like wrestling is not a thing you do individually. You have to like go with your partner. But I think mostly like if they want to see if they're bringing to see me, then I'm gonna do what I do, and I'm gonna do it like even more like differently. And I think it's better if like especially in Japan, and that's something I know that they like. They when they're
Mhm,
bringing a foreigner, they expect them to in a way wrestle like a foreigner. Like Japanese
mhm.
wrestling, some parts of it becomes pretty homogenous, right? Like there's a very
Yes,
structured environment to how you learn wrestling in Japan,
yes.
and there's very specific
Mhm.
things that you learn and do, and like there's a trainee move set with a
Yeah,
body slam,
yeah.
Boston crab that everyone does
Uh,
when they're starting out, the
big
young
drop
boy
kick
move,
and
and
yeah.
like maybe Samoan drop or something. Thank you for the follow, Thomas Edge for life. But yeah, in Japan, when they bring in a foreigner, they want the foreigner's style. They want to see what they bring that is different. Because why would they? There's plenty of great Japanese wrestlers. If they wanted another one of those, they would just take one. But if they're bringing you in from very far away, it's because they want to see your style and they want you to highlight that.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like, for example, to do a different analogy, if you follow a music band for small venues for your whole life, and then the music band gets to play the main stage of Coachella,
Yes.
you don't want them to suddenly start playing AC/DC
No.
covers. You want
Right.
them to play the music they played.
Yes.
It's like, oh no, but AC/DC is main stage music. No, you got to main stage because of your music. Play your music.
Speaking of which,
That's the same with you. And
what is the music
yeah,
you played?
I went from different things. Well, I'm actually wearing like a punk rock bar T-shirt.
Yep.
But I go for
You are very
from I
welcome.
um from the with the band I played the most and I recorded some stuff. It was
Yep.
a mix between punk rock, hardcore, metal, rock, and a weird in between of all that, and like melodic hardcore and post hardcore.
Right.
It was in between of all that, but I always tried to make it work in a way that you never felt that the song was forced or the
Right.
transitions were forced. It was at a time where people would try to do breakdowns on every single song or put like a synthesizer or something, and it felt so forced. So I was like, whatever we do, I want it to feel natural.
Yeah. Okay.
But I listen to loads of music and I play loads of music now with my acoustic guitar. When I play for myself, I sometimes like play folk punk. Now
Nice.
I'm like playing some straight up rock and roll with like Japan Droids and Biffy Clyro and stuff like that. Then I can go from hardcore. I can play some pop punk, and I love a bit of everything, to be honest.
Um. So like the way you, I've never played music. I'm not a musician,
Mhm.
which is a shame because both of my parents were musicians.
Oh
My
wow.
father played hobo in the hautbois. I don't know what you.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh boy, we say in Spanish.
yeah.
Yeah, but I know what you
In
meant.
the Montreal Symphonic Orchestra. My mom like was a
Wow,
music teacher and she still plays
that's
regularly.
insane.
But I never got into music. And
Hmm.
as I mentioned, I am not a music nerd, but I do listen to tons of music, and
Hmm.
especially like I think it's mostly from music videos and watching
Okay.
so many of them. I think about wrestling very musically. And the way
Okay.
you just described it and writing songs and breakdowns and all that sounds very much like wrestling. So
Yes.
my question is that a thing you do? Like imagine matches musically and kind of look at them like songs?
Mm, I don't do it really with matches, like whole matches,
Right.
but I do it with sequences
Okay,
many
yes.
times. Because I try to guide my sequences musically many times.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like, just the momentum of the match, I try to guide it sometimes thinking in music terms.
Yeah.
Um, Writing or thinking about a whole wrestling match, it's hard because sometimes I would end a song on a low, or like many times you'd have like one big chorus and an outro. But
Yes.
sometimes I do an outro that goes hard after the last chorus, so then it would be like okay, because you want to end the match on a high. So I don't think you can compare structures that way, but
Right.
you can compare the way you build things and the way you work on some sequences, and you want to do the pa pa, things like that.
So I don't know if you were there on that show, but I had a match with Walter at Riptide.
I don't think I was
No.
there.
Regardless, if you like I could I don't remember the name of the song, but it's by Cold War Kids and the whole match was literally before it happened. I like wrote it down to that song in my mind and
Wow,
I could like I'd be happy to show you how it reflects the whole thing.
please.
But I guess that's a weird
Wow.
thing I do where I like before and I know Veda does this as well where we always like have fully formed scenarios of what the match
Hmm.
could be in our minds
Yep.
before we go out there.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if that's something you do as well.
With like thinking how the match could go and
Full
like have it in
full
my mind
match, full scenario in your head and then
before
you go and then
before I've met the person
yeah,
or after we planned.
before.
Yeah, I mean depending on the person, but I usually have like a whole idea of how it could go, unless I don't know anything, in which I just want to imagine. And if I don't know anything about someone, I always try to watch a couple of matches or at least like a highlight video to know what they do and
Right.
then have an idea in my mind.
Yeah.
I want to come with stuff in my mind. The thing is, like, I always want to come with stuff in my mind, and I always know stuff from people.
Yeah.
But sometimes, if I'm wrestling someone that's more experienced than me, I'm I try to listen and like I maybe suggest not as many ideas as I could or as I do have because I just want to listen to the
Yeah.
higher in hierarchy person. But yes, there's many times where I have like the whole thing in my mind, and
Mm.
when the thing is, whenever I do have that thing, I feel like the matches sometimes aren't that good
Okay.
because it feels like I'm telling the other person the match, even if they put their things in and we switch
Right.
things. And it happens to me when I'm doing some other person's match, even if it's with my things, um, I don't feel natural within the match
Yeah.
sometimes, and it looks forced, or I forget the stuff that is my own stuff, but he's placed it in a weird way that is not the natural way to me, and da da da. But when I do have like the whole scenario in my mind, and it's like, okay,
So we did wrestle
uh,
and I do
I just try
remember
to pick little things and
what it's like to plan with you because we did have a match once in Refpo. But first, any are there any famous Spanish punk bands that you know or like? If
there's
anyone would know, I
Blowfuse.
figure it's you.
Blowfuse that's real good. They've played like some good festivals. Wild Animals. I know, Juba, you like Jeff Rosenstock. He wears Wild Animals t-shirts to some gigs. He has it in like some live session somewhere. Uh, I said Blowfuse. The Black Joe is great. you like hot water music and make do amend and Flatliners and Menzingers, you should listen to the Black YuGiOh. There are some others, but off the top of my head, like underground punk bands are cool. I'd say those three, for example.
Cool. Yeah, so I remember the match we had. We
Yeah,
drove together in a van of like 6 people from where was it? Wolverhampton to Southampton, which is what, like, should be 4 hours.
no, we went to London to pick me up.
Oh, we went to London to pick you up. That's right.
That's the
You weren't
thing.
in
I
the
was
London
like
match.
so stressed that day. I felt so bad
But that
because
was
on the
not
group,
just
it
you.
wasn't
We
my
also
fault.
had a few other people. Well, it was partially your fault, but we also had a bunch of other people to go pick up, which
Yeah.
got us very late to the show. And then
Yes.
you and I had to plan the entire match
In the
basically
van.
in the van, inside the
Yeah.
van, which, like, luckily enough, um, we
And
both had.
the worst thing was like Mao was in the van too, and Kyle was wrestling Mao. I
Yeah.
was wrestling you, and instead of us be sitting next to each other,
Yes.
we had to plan across. So it was like you here. Let's see, I want to see the cam. You here, uh, Mao here, me here, Kyle here. So Kyle and Mao talked like this, and you and I talked like this.
Yes. And Veda thought she would never see me again after that epic van trip. But yeah, you had a bunch of pretty, like, clear ideas of what you wanted for the match, and we kind of just like I could tell that you had ideas, but
Mhm.
didn't, like, outright say them. You kind of just let them come upon naturally. Like,
Mhm.
what I would prefer always. I
Okay.
never understand and can never relate to going someone and say, "Hey, do you have any ideas for today's match?" and asking, and them going, "No, man, whatever you like." I cannot relate to that at all. Like,
Yeah.
the I usually say, I have one or two things I would like to do." Where the real
Yeah.
answer is, yes, I have enough things to fill up 4 matches.
Yeah.
Um,
Um, what happens with me? I want to listen to you on this, but I just want to add a little more thing.
yes, please.
Um, especially when I wrestle people that I feel like have great minds and have had many great matches. I'm usually like I will have loads of ideas, but I'll be
Yes.
like, I want to do your match. I want to learn of like I want to learn from the way you plan, even if like the match isn't and doesn't end up being that good. I want to listen to your whole thought process and planning process.
Yes. So,
So I know sometimes that can be like boring because you'll be like, oh fucking hell, I need to plan this match again. And it's definitely not going to be the whole thing like that. But I always want to hear the more experienced guy. If it's someone I really respect or I feel that has great matches or a great mind for pro wrestling, I want to see how they approach a match.
right. Which leads
Please
us
go on.
to a question we have from Saucy Flossy. Have you ever worked with anyone who has pushed you to be better than you thought you could be? Which
Yeah,
sort
definitely.
is there anyone that comes to mind specifically?
Yeah. You
Oh, well, thank you. Yes.
and definitely Zack Sabre Jr.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Definitely. 100%. I thought I went in ready for that match, and I was like, I had studied him, I had studied myself, I had been wrestling and training and having good matches and had ideas for his stuff, for my stuff, to give him stuff. But they were like, we planned in a reduced time, even if we had a lot of time in the venue, but he
Yeah.
was relaxed and I didn't want to push him and I knew he could figure it out in no time. And I wanted to face that challenge of not pushing that. Um, he makes a lot of things very complex that make a lot of sense that seems simple to people, but planning them are very complex.
Yes.
And there were many situations where like we wouldn't have a lot of time, and he would ask me to come up with something that would lead him to do something, or that would lead us to do anything. And I felt like I was especially quick in having coming up with real good ideas on those times. And those were ideas that didn't come from the things I had studied from him, or that I knew from myself, or that I had in mind that we could do with his things and my things. That just were things that were like, okay, I want to do this, or this is happening.
Yes.
What can you offer me? What can you give me? And I was like especially sharp on that day on like, okay, we can do this, 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 this. Okay, that's sick. This. Maybe something. This, yeah, perfect. And so I was like solving those problems real quick,
Yeah.
and we went on to do like a 20-minute main event with one of the best wrestlers in the world that I felt really proud of.
Beautiful. So I had I worked with Kevin Steen a lot
Mm-hmm.
several years ago, and he was
Mm-hmm.
really someone who I learned a lot from, as he was, like, super detail oriented. And just like
Mm-hmm.
from watching him, so the thing that he did, and I know I've said this when we were watching one of his matches a couple of weeks ago on here. The thing he did that is the most like impressive is his crowd interactions, and how
Okay.
the match is very like we know where we're going, we know what we're doing, and within that, within like pretty structured and specific planning, he is able to
Uh-huh.
interact with absolutely anything that happens around him, to
Yeah.
take it, make it his, and then bring it right back like into the match seamlessly, and then get us like right
Double the
back,
reaction
right
or
back, yeah,
whatever.
right back to where
Yeah.
we were and getting double the reaction.
Yeah.
um and like one person that really like this is more like about like realizations than pushing
Mm-hmm.
me to be better than I thought. But when I
Yeah.
wrestled Kenny Omega in PWG,
Wow. Yeah.
I like this is something that I realized. Okay, I don't have like I'm not adequately prepared. Like
Yeah,
I
dude,
need
that
to.
moment is so hard when you
Yes,
wrestle someone and you realize they're on a whole different thinking level.
yes.
It's like, oh god, I felt I was doing okay, but I'm so far from this, and that's such a hard moment as a wrestler.
Yes, and talking about what we were saying earlier of trying to give like tell people what you would like to know. Like I wrestled Kenny, we had a great match. Like he led me through something fantastic, and then I
Hmm.
went to DDT and I wrestled there for 4 years. And I
Yeah.
felt like going there, I learned everything that I should have known then, and like I'm trying to
Yeah,
pass it on now.
that's great, and I appreciate it. I've said it many times to you, and for anyone that's watching here, if you're a wrestler, good. If you're not a wrestler, that's okay. Still cool to know. Speedball is someone that has a great mind for pro wrestling, and he just is not able to have a bad match. His matches go from good to fucking amazing, and then like he'll be the person that spends more time in the venue playing with whoever he's working, no matter how big or small or well known that person is. Uh, he'll have the most incredible match with whoever, and then besides all of that, and doing like a crazy 20-minute match every single night, 3 nights a weekend, he'll try to make as most time as he can to watch your match. And if you can, and if you ask him for critique, he'll have very specific detail, and he makes a lot of effort to just make anyone in the locker room better. And that's something you very rarely find. Not to say I don't think I've ever seen it that way and that passionate.
Well, thank you. Like I know, and it's like mostly it's selfish. I mostly do it
Hmm.
for me because I know that I will most likely live off pro wrestling for a very long time, and
Hmm.
like I want to treat others the way I would want to be treated. I
Yeah,
want to I know
100%.
that if I work hard, then that'll rub off on other people, and then like everyone in the entirety of pro wrestling is better for it, and then it
Hmm.
comes right back to me, which is how
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
which is why I am a selfish person and not actually like
Mhm.
a giving person like you made me out to be.
Yeah, you selfish asshole.
But yeah, no, but like I do it because again I look at people like you who like before we had wrestled, you had asked me to like watch your matches and stuff, and
Hmm.
just seeing that and how much you care, like I know you want to. I know that if you have the information, you will happily pass it on.
Yeah,
And sometimes
absolutely.
there's
That's
little,
that's what I
little,
do here. That's
lit.
what I do here. Like the
Yes,
little I know, I'll try to pass it to everyone.
sometimes it's little simple truths in wrestling that you will hear, and like it'll just it's this one sentence. Like I remember, I don't remember who said it, but like recently, like within the last year, I heard someone say this specific sentence: "Bring the crowd down to zero before you go to the comeback." And it
Wow.
makes perfect sense. It's good advice. It's something I sort of did. Like I always make sure that it goes fully a reaction for the heel, and then mine comes. But I'd never heard it said in that way.
Hmm.
And I know that just all those little pieces are easy to pass on. And then if
Yeah.
you do pass it on to someone that knows how to use it, then you'll pass it on, and then the information spreads, and then that's how you make a wrestling scene and a community better.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
hello Ender, by the way. Ender Karaz in the chat.
And how you
And
doing?
so is a Teal Capybara. Are there wrestlers that inspired you both, watching them and saying, "I want to do this kind of stuff as well as this guy does"? Do you have anyone specifically that you
Mm,
can remember? Not just like that you watched as a child, but that when you
yeah.
like started
No.
wrestling or were thinking about starting wrestling, I want to do it like they do.
Um, I think it's mostly now because I've went through different phases.
Yeah.
Like at first, I wanted to do the coolest high flying shit, and then do a bit of everything and da da da. But then now I watch like the way Zack Sabre Jr. and Jonathan Gresham wrestle.
Yes.
Also, Gresh is another people when we wrestled um, Gresham Brooks with A-Kid at RevPro.
Mm.
That was like mind blowing for us in terms of like tag team. It was like completely different. And when again, like when we've wrestled with Pete and Tyler and Trent, obviously we've learned loads, and it was like again the way they knew how to work the crowd and get the matches right. But going back to that, like seeing how Zack wrestles, how Gresh wrestles, the things they add, the things they are able to get reactions of and get the crowd to enjoy. That's something I feel like I have a kind of wrestling trauma because, as I told you, in Spain we were like so forced to not do any technical wrestling
Right.
that we kept it outside of ourselves for so long. And then when I started teaming with Akid, because he was so good at that, I would usually leave that stuff to him and do something else.
Yeah.
But that's something I've always loved.
Mm-hmm.
So I really want to do more technical wrestling. And the matches I've done, like, they were more mat based, and I've been able to do more stuff in that aspect. I feel that have been some of my best matches, or even my best matches. My match with Zack Sabre Jr., my match with Daniel Makabe. Um, so I really want to explore that aspect of myself. And when I've seen those people do it, it's like, okay, there's ways of doing it. I'm obviously not gonna do it exactly like them, but then you see Zack Jr., which is a guy that would bend you in 7 million ways, but then he will also strike you hard. And then you will see Gresh, who will get some high flying bits in between, and they will feel completely normal. And then he will add like an an old British sequence, which you might see in the UK as an opening spot in two matches of a show, and he'll do it as the finishing sequence, and it feels completely fine. Um, so those are people that really inspire me. And when I see, yeah, people that are able to get great reactions from
So,
technical issues.
for me, guys that
Mhm.
I saw like early and I thought, wow, I really want to wrestle like them were like Loki and
Okay.
Matt Seidel.
Uh-huh.
A bit earlier there was like Amazing Red, but like
Of
and
course.
later Tiger Mask was like a big one for me. Tiger
Yeah.
Mask one specifically,
Yeah.
but like just like you were, just like the answer you gave, those were all wrestlers that found what they were good at specifically
Mhm.
and then focused on that.
Mhm.
Who like
Yes.
found their strengths and then doubled down on it, and that's why there was like no hesitation. Like you guys, the guys you liked and the wrestler you're trying to be is a smart grappler, and I
Mhm.
want to be a flashy striker and high flyer, and that's the guys I like, and that's who I
Mhm.
tried to be. And like I think that comes over time, but every good wrestler like eventually just figures out their strengths and what
Yeah.
they're good at, and then just doubles down on it and goes way on it. And things like, oh, the style here is not for you to do technical wrestling or three dives in your match, then you sort of just at some point you know better and you know who you are
Yeah.
as a wrestler and I know who I
Yeah.
am as a wrestler, and even if it's
Yeah.
not recommended by someone that I do the stuff that I'm good at, I will do
Yeah.
it anyways. And I know because I've learned over time that it's going to be
Yeah.
better,
If not, why do they have you over there?
right?
If they know that's what you do.
Yeah.
I mean, they can give you tips and point you in the direction of what the crowd usually likes,
Yes.
but it's not like you're gonna change your whole style
No,
for a match.
absolutely not. And on that note,
Yes.
Carlos, I'm gonna look if I had any other. I had so many other questions, so many things I want to talk
I,
about.
I
Um,
know. I won't talk
but
to you
yeah,
for hours.
so I guess we'll have to do it again sometime soon, won't we?
Yeah, that's perfect for me.
Uh,
Whenever you want.
where can people find you? How can people
Um,
help you?
People can find me on Twitter, Carlos Romo PW, on Instagram, Carlos Romo PW, on Twitch, Carlos Romo PW. I'm twitching PS1 games, but I'm gonna start doing a show about music soon.
Nice. Yes.
So, because I'm a fucking music nerd, and I know so many other people are,
Yes.
so let's do it. Uh, I know Veda wants to watch Dynamite and XC. You have to double screen that. Uh, but yeah, you can find me Carlos Romo PW on basically every social media. Carlos Romo shop.bigcartel.com for the limited merch that I have right now left, and
And
feel that's
before we leave,
it
is there
for now.
anything philosophically that you would like to impart on everyone? Is there a cause that is precious to you that you would like to share with us?
There are many causes. I'm gonna do well. No, I'm gonna pass on one because it can feel political. But there's
You can be
something that I
political.
tweeted.
That's fine. If it's
I
important to you,
know,
I
but
would
that's
love to
not
hear it.
okay. If you want to read about it, just go on my Twitter. Something bad is happening in Spain that doesn't feel like a democracy. A rapper has been jailed for singing and tweeting against the royal family, which are
Okay.
actually some of them thieves, and tweeting and singing against the police, which actually destroyed one girl's eye today in the protests for him getting jailed.
Yes.
So weird. First European country that gets a musician jailed for that kind of stuff,
Yes.
so very weird. But
Awful.
besides all that, I'm gonna leave people with one motto that I have in my life.
Yes.
Um, I have two main goals in life. One is just be happy as much as I can, because that's all we have really. And my second big goal is to live people's lives that I touch better than they were before they met me.
That is
I feel
absolutely
like if we all
wonderful.
have those goals, the world would be a better place.
That is absolutely lovely. That is why I wanted to talk to you on here. Mostly because I miss you dearly, but
I
also
miss you,
because
dude.
I know you're incredibly smart and wise
Oh,
beyond your years.
thank you.
Thank you so
You too.
much.
I
This
miss you.
is
Thanks for this time.
my pleasure.
I'll talk to you soon.
Bye bye,
Yeah.
Carlos.
Bye bye.